Greetings, fellow slingers. Welcome back to Roll the Hard 20 podcast. It is I, your trusted Dungeon Master Brian, welcoming you once again to the show. You know, just the other day, actually it's been more like a couple of weeks ago, back when I was still on the West Coast, I was discussing with the other hard slingers about bringing other listening material to you fellow slingers that's not always of a high fantasy genre, and why we would want to do so. Well, as I've seen more than a few times, that kind of material certainly is most needed when we're short one of our hard slingers due to some last minute scheduling conflict. Yeah, I know, that one day a week for that 1 hour, I know that could be very challenging to make. But 6 months from now, if you look at the RSS feeds and you look at all the episodes, you can see that, they still got made and they still got posted. Anyways, although we don't always have an alternative system or a scenario in the chamber, which we'll be correcting as we move forward, we always have hard slingers that have hot mics and are ready for another segment of Rolling for 20. So I'm bringing to you the meat and potatoes of my hard slingers as they discuss the classes that they chose for our Dragon's Demand run through and why. So please enjoy our Rolling for 20 segment. Show some class. Enjoy. That recording voice is so sexy.
Yeah, it gets me.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Could be a little more baritone for my tastes.
Oh my.
A little.
Motherfucker, recording in progress.
Not Samuel L. Jackson.
Oh, it's my beer. Anyways, are we ready?
Yeah,
Let's
we're
do
ready.
this.
Yeah.
Greetings, fellow slingers. Welcome back to Roll the Hard 20 podcast. It is I, your trusted Dungeon Master Brian, and with me, my hard slingers. That would be
Chris.
you two. I'm actually only joined by Ryan and Chris as we bring to you another long-awaited episode of our Rolling for 20, which is where we get together and we discuss a few minor topics and basically digress as we go along the way. It's been a long time since we've done one of these, and Junior says he'll be on in a few, so we're waiting for him when he does it. As a way of easing back into one of these episodes, we're going to discuss our character classes, most notably try to keep it easy, but I'm going to ask each of you hard slingers which class you decided to run for the Dragon's Demand and what led you to choose that particular class. So we've gone through 21 episodes and here we are now. So Ryan, why don't you give me a little idea? First of all, I already know what you're playing. Why don't you tell the listeners what you're playing?
So Warren is a human warlock, and his pact is the Genie Pact, which came out in Tasha's. I think it's like been 6-7 months now.
Ironically, I think that book is older than that. I think
is the book older than that?
I don't know. It just seems like it. It's hard to tell. Time has just been ebbing and flowing as we continue this ongoing. Right. Well, let me ask you this: was picking a warlock, was that your first choice? Or were you torn between one or more than one?
I was thinking of a couple of different ways. I think probably the linchpin of how I settled on playing a warlock of the Genie Pact was actually how Warren got to be introduced to the party. He was basically trapped in his ring.
I like that story too. I mean, it's not a spoiler at all because if you've been following along, Ryan joined us a few episodes into the show as Kush was preparing to segue out. And like I've said so many times, Ryan's an awesome addition to the show. But yeah, it was cool that they found the ring that Warren was in. Continue, please.
So the other options I actually was considering a druid possibly Circle of the Wildfire, which would have been explosive. Another option I was thinking about that might be fun and have a little bit of that like mad scientist vibe would be like an alchemist artificer.
Oh,
So, yeah, there would have been there were some good options, but I'm really happy with my pick with Warren. I
had
feel
you
like
played a warlock before?
I have played a warlock before. Only once. I actually played through the Princes of the Apocalypse campaign, 5e campaign module, as a tiefling celestial warlock named Cyrano. And I had a blast with him. It was all
Cyrano.
about Cyrano.
Cyrano.
But it was a blast. I think I wound up playing him from level 1 up to it was like level 12 or so. So I got a really good taste of like the warlock's power and such.
Yeah, he's like way OP, which is I think one reason why a lot of the monsters like to focus fire on you, because you do a lot of the damage to them, kind of like a payback kind of thing.
Yeah, well, and then hopefully I just I'll hide behind Stabby if I have to, or Flint, whoever's in front of me.
The only thing you're going to be protecting is your kneecaps. That's about it.
Moving on to Stabby, Chris. Now you chose to be the halfling rogue. Was he your first choice in a class?
He was not. I typically like to play paladins, and I was seriously leaning towards playing a paladin for this this show. And then I said, no, I always play it. Let's try something else. And I actually started looking at a bard. And the more I read about a bard, I think I was going to have an exceedingly difficult time playing that character, in this particular campaign. A lot of reading that I did, they're not necessarily party or DM friendly. It's just more difficult from the reading that I had done. Now that's obviously no reflection upon you, because I think you would have made it work. But I think that I decided, you know what, I'm just going to skip the bard for now, deal with it later. And part of it too is, I had a very long hiatus of playing D&D. So this is, coming in to play with you guys in the show was a way for me to get back into it. I ended up just landing on the rogue as kind of my third choice, never having played one. And I was intrigued by the stealthy nature, being able to intimidate, things like that. That's
most likely after we kill Stabby, you could choose either the paladin or the bard at some point.
We'll just just yeet him into the dragon's maw.
Right. Now, because I've got a few questions here as I'm asking my boys here. I also want to know which aspects turned out to be better than you thought would be, and which aspects of that particular character let you down. I'm going to start with you this time, Chris.
For me, I'll start with the bad. He's a pin cushion.
Yeah, he likes to soak it up, man.
And that's hard. I think for a rogue, especially, supposed to be stealthy, frontline combat.
No, they're not supposed to be frontline combat.
Well, no.
Well,
if they stealth into combat, not frontline like a meat shield, but being able to stealth into frontline combat. It's great, but like I say, he's a pincushion. He goes down quick. So I found that I have to really, really pay attention and be a little bit more reserved in the play style of that character. And then as far as what I really like about him is the mix of being able to use some intimidation tactics to get what he or the party wants. I'm looking forward to more interaction with the town folk and folks outside the dungeons to kind of stretch those wings a little bit more of that character class.
Yeah, when you guys finish with the Blood Vow lair, eventually you're going to have to go back and report to the Baroness and let her know, everything that's gone on in the lair and what you've discovered and things like that. And then you'll start finding yourselves interacting again with the common people, which I'll personally have to stop finding my voices again for all those people. Ryan, what did you find that went better than you thought it would go for your character, and things that kind of went off the rails?
I don't know if I would say that anything has gone like so far off the rails. I've played D&D and I played 5e. Actually, I think 5e is probably the edition that I've played the most of. And so I'm pretty well aware of Warren's and a warlock in general's strengths and weaknesses. Obviously, his inability to take a really good hit, and then also to, as happened at the end of our last session, Warren should not be the trap finder.
No, we should get a rogue for that.
I know. Ideally, a rogue that can actually see
in the dark. Yeah,
I know. It's crazy.
Yeah, but let's be fair. That's not a class attribute. That's a race attribute. That's the one thing that I wish I would have chosen a different race.
Oh, you're gonna start getting racist now,
huh? So, hey, welcome, Junior.
Well, what's going on?
I would say the best thing about Ward, really, I like how he brings a completely different dynamic to the party. Like in classic D&D genre, there's always like the fighter, the rogue, the wizard, and the cleric. And so and each one of them fills like these very like niche, very specific roles. I like totally mixing it up. So just as an example is another game that I had played in, they kind of needed a tank. I didn't want to play a fighter. So I played a Circle of the Moon druid, and I was very frequently a large bear. And
I've seen people do that too. Yeah, like where they play the druid and they just morph into like a large snake or something and start going.
That was another one. And so because of that, like I kind of got the sense that the party would do well from someone with a more arcane bend, but could have played a wizard, but a warlock is just, I think, more fun. And also warlocks get more weird bags of tricks.
Yeah, it definitely lent a lot of flavor to how you were brought into the adventure path and all that other stuff, plus your history, how you're connected to Tula Belhaim. Junior, when you first were picking Flint, did you have more than one class that you were thought about doing, or was it always just wanted to do a dwarf? I'm sorry.
Wanted to do
the druid. I apologize.
Or the race.
Yeah. Well, when I did, I'm running a druid in another campaign that we're doing, and he's fun. I just didn't want to have to do two druids at the same time. So when I did Flint and I went with the dwarf, I actually went with the mindset of having a kind of like a Viking dwarf, with like the attitude and the spice in him. But I didn't want to make him just bloodthirsty. I wanted him to be more of like a medic type, where he was more aid to his his other combat people. So that's kind of like how I wanted to twist it, where Flint's not the main frontline battle, tank kind of guy, but he could take some beatings, but he wants to make sure everyone on the battlefield himself is taken care of.
Did you ever think about playing a different class, or was it always the druid?
I just thought it would be different. I mean, just playing the dwarf itself. I think my druid in the other campaign that we're doing is, what was he? He's an elf, a wooden elf, if I could remember.
What was funny was I actually was looking through the book. I'd have to review this, but it was that wasn't cricket, was it? No.
That was I'm trying to remember.
Then you had Fuego,
which was actually kind of a funny thing. I did him as a pre-gen, and he ended up being a Tiefling. What was he? He was something spellcasting.
sorcerer. I don't remember, honestly. I try to expunge all of that AP out of my mind. That cursed AP.
Yeah, but it was interesting to play either one. The spellcasting's definitely been something of a challenge for me to try to do, since a lot of my characters were kind of tankier.
You're talking about the Carrion Crown.
Yeah.
Okay, that was Oust, wasn't it?
Oust, yeah.
Okay. As I catch you up to the rest of this, what turned out to be one of the better aspects of the character, and that you thought would be, and then what let you down as far as that character, as far as his class is concerned?
Class wise, being a cleric, I like the healing aspect, but unfortunately, being a low level healer, it kind of seems like a lot of the things I either have to be in range of you, like either touch or a certain amount of feet to kind of give you healing power. And it's kind of hard because, like I said, when I first started, I was always a frontline fighter. I was always a tank. So not trying to get into the heat of battle and trying to stay back has been more of my problem as operating my character. But
because you always like to be right up front.
I like to be up in the front of the thick of shit. But
and for those of you that don't know that, go listen to Riders on the Storm.
Yeah. Listen to Rafu.
But now each of you have somehow managed to get through not just the good but the bad, and through role playing and stuff. So tell me, each of you in some way, how your role playing managed to distinguish your character's class from, say, another character with the same class. Like how you've managed to do something, even if you played the same class before, how this particular character, like Warren or Stubby or Flint. Let's go back up to you, Ryan. How has your role playing distinguished your Warren from anybody else's Warlock?
Well, so if you take the actual character data out of it and you just look at Warren as Warren presents himself, Warren actually comes across as Warren actually, like, my whole mental picture of him, and you'll actually see from the art as my background, comes across much more as like a wizard, or he comes across as like a nobleman who likes to dabble. And so that's one of the ways that I've tried to portray him a bit, is he's a little bit more refined than the rest of these plebs. And just, he likes to be knowledgeable, but he is also aware that not accepting the fact that you don't know everything is definitely a way to have your hubris kick you in the ass. So it's role-playing him. I'm just trying to lean more on the knowledge that he does have, and trying to make sure that he's able to use that to the benefit of the rest of the party is I guess the simplest way I can put that. And then, of course, he's got a little more refined tastes, and he just tries to.
Well, it's gonna be interesting when all of you level up to the next level, because you're all just gonna get that much more beefier. Chris, What about you? How's role playing lent itself to overcoming the consistent bad aspects or the consistent good aspects? How they manage to mesh together, because he's done a lot of role playing, getting in people's faces and shit. Even that ghost back in the collapsed tower, making him, you come out here now. Remember, you wanted to make him come out of the jail cell.
Yeah,
threatening him.
It didn't work out so well. Yeah, I think playing that character, kind of a more in your face, a little more forceful. He expects that people do what he says, and that's not quite how it works. So I think continuing to play that character that he's in your face, trying to get people to do things just because he says to do them, sets him apart a little bit, from other characters that may play that class.
What about you, Junior? How's Flint's role playing? I mean, I gotta be honest, as Flint being the healer, he's done completely selfless acts that, I mean, a lot of people don't like doing as far as playing clerics, because you're just the shop band-aid at that point. But I mean, you've managed to like keep yourself vertical as well as healing people while you're doing stuff, and go standing in front of a Sirkin when he's down with your shield up and shit, and okay, we're pull back into the hallway, let me heal this individual and bring them back up, or stabilize this individual. That's been really awesome. I mean,
well, it's been kind of nice. I know Stabby has given me multiple opportunities to either save his life or give him some healing, but Sirkin as well, even in the last I think it's second to the last episode,
he doesn't want you to feel left out. He wants you to know that you have a usefulness.
I have a meaning, I got a meaning as a party member. I gotta keep practicing.
He's back there cutting himself,
I think Flint actually came more alive and getting more comfortable in his role when Sirkin did go down in kind of like our ambushed area. I mean, there was no real way to get him out and retreat. So when he fell, he kind of took the position of, all right, well, I got to stabilize and screw these arrows that are, darting at me and taking two in the back. My job is, I need to take care of my friends.
And, that act alone, like that showed great role playing, because you didn't just heal him and move 20 feet or, move 5 squares, or, you kept it all like in the narrative. Now I go over and heal him, and I drop to a knee and I give him partial cover. That right there, that's a gold doubloon. Done. Handled that.
Yeah, I love I think, what you said, that he's playing selfless as a cleric. That is an interesting way to play a cleric, in that selfless manner, putting himself in harm's way constantly to keep us all vertical.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Actually, it is something you would almost expect to see more of, like a paladin.
Yeah.
Stereotypically speaking.
Yeah, it is very stereotypical of a paladin, if we're
like staying on the front line and still doing combat while you're healing, but providing that kind of protection and stuff. It's funny, like, in fact, when you were doing the Sun Citadel campaign, and I created that rogue who was walking around in paladin armor, acting like he was all regal, but he wasn't. He was just a rogue, But I wanted it to come across like he had this aura, this air about him, that he was somebody special. He's just a straight up thief. Just a piece of garbage.
He just ripped the uniform off, the armor off a paladin. Probably one he killed.
Yeah, probably when he shanked in the back at some point. As I was looking through some of my old characters and whatnot, one of the ones that I remembered putting together when we used to play in front of the comic shop was this sorcerer, a human sorcerer called Fallant. And he was like an older man. He's like 60 years old and decrepit and shit. But I'd never played a sorcerer before. And I chose it because all of his saving throws were based off of charisma, which a lot of people don't really look at that. They look at dex or strength or constitution and stuff. So when I put them together, it was always kind of this mischievous old man who would, oh, you got something on your face, and he had a wand of magic missiles taped to his wrist, and he would like let them all off at the same time right there, point blank. And he ended up making a comeback as an NPC on the Isle of the Dead in the Riders on the Storm campaign. But I always thought it was kind of, I played to his not having any strength or dex because he was so old.
Mm-hmm.
That was how I played him to do the things that he had done. But he was always about the chromatic orbs and stuff, and just trying to get that stuff, but mostly from a distance. He wasn't really ever a frontline fighter or anything like that. So. But
that's like kind of a cool handicap in a way, like how it naturally played off, where you were dumping all your stuff into charisma instead of strength. It kind of plays into the 90-year-old man with no business out there in his walker, with his golf balls, and he's all like, hold on, and just blast you with missiles.
You guys found him on the island, you and Eric and I forget who else, they kicked in his front door because he wouldn't let him in. He had a shack, and so when they kicked open the door, he fireballed him at like point blank range. It was awesome. And then he ran out the back, and eventually they caught him and did some other stuff. But it was really funny just to see you guys chasing this old hobbling man. And I think he had like a couple scarecrows that like came to life in his field and did all that shit. But good times, man. Good times. Well, if anybody has anything else they would like to add about their character, now would be the time to do so.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed this campaign, and the interactions with Warren, the interactions with Flint, with Stabby. I think that Warren and Stabby have this kind of back and forth, throughout the campaign that at times can seem a little strained. But I think Stabby has even though he really only cares about himself primarily, he still wants to see that Warren makes it through, that Flint makes it through, and Sirkin makes it through.
And I think that'd be like a great role-playing opportunity, like when you guys are finally taking 5, settle down, maybe take a long rest or something, and you guys just have your one-on-one, kind of get that, because I don't think any of you guys really know what Warren's history really is. He was in the ring, he was in the ring for some time, but you really don't know anything about him, just like he doesn't know much about you. In fact, even as the DM, I know a little bit about Stabby. I don't know hardly anything about Flint or Sirkin. I'm hoping at some point you guys will drop that flavor to me so I could intermingle it and sprinkle it throughout the AP.
Surprisingly, I honestly didn't think Flint would have made it too far. I thought he would have probably gone down within like the first major combat. And I was surprised that he did so well. And I mean, I think it's because I've been trying to keep him away from the front line, more or less.
He did really well. And I know, like, when you guys first went into the collapsed witch tower and you were fighting like the large worms, and then you were fighting a few other things in there, I was like, I saw Stabby go down more than anybody else. And I don't know if it was because he was blind in the dark, because I think at one point he was riding on somebody's shoulders and he had a candle in his hand.
Yeah, he was right on my back.
It's like they couldn't help but say, okay, well, let's go for this guy because he's the beacon. He's the dinner at this point.
He's got a target on him.
Yeah. You just lit up the room and boo, we're going for that guy right there. But yeah, I like seeing how the characters have developed even over 21 episodes, and that's been really cool because you guys are the homeboys. You guys are in this thing, and we keep on going through it. I know we keep talking about having like other venues and maybe doing shorties and stuff for if somebody can't make it, we have something in reserve that we could start running something. And I think that's great too. You'll see how everybody interacts is in a different format, like a different game or a different set of mechanics, or even with a different GM, if somebody else, like I know Ryan, you do Starfinder and stuff, you're probably the most capable of us to GM a one-off Starfinder or something, well, either way, I'm still studying it up anyways, but I mean, just to do stuff like that, or even do like a short Delta Green. I know I keep pushing that because I think that game is so fucking bitchin'. That game is just fun. Junior could attest to it. He had a blast doing it too. And it's, I think this venue at the digital rage room behind the virtual Eye of Destiny is probably the easiest way for us all to get together without worrying about driving somewhere, or I can't stay over late, or I can't make the distance or whatever. This is so much easier. Okay, I got an hour and a half. I could sit behind the computer, bip in, everybody does their thing in the Zoom call, and it's in the can at that point. And so it lends itself well for us to put more things out there, I should say, especially on the times when we can't get everybody together. Like, it would have been great to have done it last week when Nick couldn't make it. I think that would have been perfect. So for all you fellow slingers out there listening, we will have something eventually ready for you in whatever venue we settle down on. So
I like the mix. I like
yeah,
the mix.
yeah. I think we should. I think we should always add something because we want to keep it fresh to some degree. I mean, even like Vampire the Masquerade, which I've never played, and I don't own one single piece of literature of that game. But I'm just saying anything that somebody wants to play that we think that would be good listening, that people would like to hear us play because we have that much fun. So
I'm intrigued by the Delta Green. The Delta Green, I think, would be a blast to play.
It is. It really is.
That is one system I'm completely unfamiliar with, so that would be interesting to learn about it.
It's not difficult to learn. It mostly incorporates it's got the same dice, but it's always about rolling 2d10. And you want to get under a specific number that's on your character sheet, and it's mostly about the investigative nature of stuff and finding out clues and talking to people, and then maybe you come across something that's unnatural, something that shouldn't be, and how it affects you psychologically, and if it affects your sanity, and that carries over and all that other stuff. But
it's a lot of role playing and investigation.
Yeah, it's very
that plays out pretty fun.
Yeah,
that sounds actually like and which is another system I haven't played, but Call of Cthulhu.
It is. It's based off Call of Cthulhu. That's in fact that's where it came from. I guess there was a subsidiary of Call of Cthulhu that was known as Delta Green, which was like a unsanctioned. I'm probably totally wrong about this. Sorry about this, listeners. An unsanctioned portion of the government that went out and did these things, and it was in the Call of Cthulhu mythos. And then eventually, I guess, it did so well that Arc Dream Publishing pulled it out of there and actually started putting together material for it. So
nice.
Yeah,
very cool.
That's really nice. And then I think they did an update of the Call of Cthulhu where they brought it up to modern standards, because I think before it's all in the noir era, like the 20s and 30s stuff. So
cool.
Good
time.
That's
awesome. Yeah. Be interested to see how that plays out.
Well, we'll definitely put something together and we'll run with it then.
Absolutely.
Is that our goodbye music?
I guess so.
I guess we're right outside.
Walk us out with a little jazz here.
Jazz hands. Well, all right. Oh, what do you got to say for me?
Oh, nothing. So just taking this, another few minutes, an interesting question that I have for each of you, including our illustrious DM, would be going into whatever game. And it doesn't necessarily need to be a class, but what is the archetype? And it could be class that you would like to play if we do a one shot or we go to the next campaign or whatever. I'm just curious.
Well, it depends on what system we play, though, too. Because if you play like Delta Green, everybody's human.
Right.
So are you talking about Starfinder?
Yeah,
I mean, fantasy?
For the sake, since we are currently in the world of D&D, let's go with that. So yeah, Brian, what would you play if we do like a one shot?
I would play like a tiefling, maybe a tiefling rogue. I think that sounds really intriguing, because they're already getting a bad rap anyways. They're already on everybody's shit list to begin with. Bunch of fucking racists out there. But yeah, I think I'd like to do a tiefling rogue. But bear in mind though that once you guys roll into third level, and I don't know if we said this when we were still recording, but we will be phasing out the 5e mechanics in favor of the Pathfinder 1e mechanics. So you'd have to keep that in mind as well.
Yep. Chris? Are you gonna go back to your safe haven of the Paladin?
No, I'm not.
Yeah.
It's very intriguing. I really, really like playing a Paladin. But I think for a one shot, I'd probably play like a Wood Elf Rogue or a Wood Elf Ranger. Sorry.
Okay, cool. Junior?
See, you've had me interested on Paladin. I think I played a Dragonborn Paladin, and I was starting to get the bearings of it, but it was a short series we did. And that would be fun, or even a Bard. Maybe something small like Tiefling Bard would be interesting because it would be a devilish looking, creature, but at the same time singing along. Maybe we can make him do like metal songs or something, like as inspiration, like
have him like have all these piercings and
just be like death before dishonor, and like everyone gets +2 or whatever.
Like you could paint half of yourself blue, so like red and blue.
Yeah.
Have him be like a tiefling bard, like heavy metal, like scald.
Yeah.
Oh wow. That would be intense.
Let's play 2 bards and do like dueling banjos.
That would be awesome.
Ryan, what about you? What would you have played? Or will you?
I have a couple of interesting concepts. So one, I actually have a concept of like a bard in like, which is very unusual for me. I actually I don't identify with bards, but I've had this concept in the back of my head that I really like is like, what I have is mostly fleshed out for like 5e mechanic, but basically he would be a like middle-aged, starting to gray, a College of Lore bard, and so he wouldn't be about singing. He would be about storytelling, and his spells would largely be summoning, and he would summon storybook characters.
Well, that's cool. It doesn't always have to be about the singing. It could be about, just conveying some kind of a, the past. Like that's what all the songs are about and the storytellings were about, is the bard would tell the village or whatever about these deeds done by heroes and demons and stuff, and that's how it was passed along and passed down and misconveyed and all that other stuff. But it doesn't always have to be about the 6-string electric guitar, anything like that. It could be any other way.
Hey, devil dude.
Right. So.
Totally. But go ahead, please.
No, I'm
cut you off. I didn't mean to hurt your feelings.
Oh, hardly. I've got thicker skin than that.
Well, does anybody have anything else to say? What about you, Stabi?
No, I just I'm looking forward to
I can tell. It's like sour. Looking forward to it.
Looking forward to the next time he falls over.
Jesus.
Yeah, pincushion for sure. No, it's
Junior's line.
No, I'm really for me, I like the mix up of the shows, doing this, doing the show, looking at other systems as well.
I think that's a good direction to take us as well. And I think I've mentioned this before. I think I mentioned it on one of the old ass Rolling for 20s, was that I had originally envisioned that when the show took off, that to do a homebrew campaign would be better than doing covers. And I don't think it was, because I think we discussed it last time that people they want to follow along if they have the ability to do so. If they could buy the PDF or they have the book, they want to see how other shows or other groups run this adventure path compared to how they have run it, or how they would run it, or get inspiration. I know that I listen to other podcasts on when they do like a Delta Green, or they do the Carrying Crown or something like that. In fact, there was this one individual from Florida here, David Ratke. Shout out to you. He messaged me and asked me some questions about running the first book of Carrying Crown, the Haunting of Harrowstone. And so I told him how I did some of this stuff. And I think I sent him some of my notes because they were running it. And it's just kind of cool that other people are listening to this show also to get ideas on how to do their stuff. So to have done the homebrew probably did us more of a disservice than to help us out. And then once we started doing publications and stuff, I think people find us more available to them. And if go ahead.
I like that you saying that people listen to us to pull in pieces of what we do into their campaigns and how they run their sessions. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, I think even before I left California, I was telling Junior that I had like 2 or 3 people ask me about how I ran a Victim of the Art, which was that Delta Green campaign. I sent them all my notes in in a folder as well, so that they could run it too. And that's really cool, that people listen to the show. And I think, I don't know what it was, but we got a few new subscribers on YouTube this past month. I was going to send that over to you guys too, that screenshot. But that's just cool. I mean, we're not hitting it out of the park, but we've got a steady, progressive following of people. And it just, it honestly, it would take 1 or 2 people that had what they wanted to hear, pass it on, and it would just blow up like wildfire.
Yeah.
And who I'm thinking about? You know who I'm thinking about, right, Junior? That one podcast we used to listen to.
Yeah.
They had one guy listen to it, and it went through the roof.
Yeah, just getting into proper channels. But real quick on that Delta Green, was that the one that we did the research about nuclear power plants and stuff like that, or is that a different one?
No, that was a different one. That was a homebrew one I did.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I was researching something for the San Onofre power plant, because this one took place right across the street from it. So I was pulling up all these satellite photos of the power plant.
Keep in mind, we're doing this on like working operated hours. So we're laughing because we're looking it up, and our whole screen, we had windows and tabs open, and it looked like we were planning an attack of something. I was like, I hope this doesn't get flagged, because we're looking at like access roads and back roads and just
distance to the power plant, and what's this building over here?
What can possibly go wrong with this?
Right.
Yeah.
I'm sure we lit up every spy satellite in the Western Hemisphere, but I had a great time doing it. But
yeah, you're all on a watch list now.
Yeah, we're on a watch list.
I hope they pass it on to somebody then, if we are.
Right?
You bet. Anyways, guys, anybody have anything else to say or add?
No.
I think this has been an awesome, just chill conversation.
And I like
really appreciate that.
This is really about what I wanted to see. And I know it kind of started off kind of stiff, because I wanted to get some of these questions out, and I wanted it to be more, but I wanted it to be more visceral. Everybody is kind of going through, and everything's, fluidly moving through the conversation. And this has been perfect. Exactly. Mm-hmm. So I guess without any further delay, I will say good night, and talk to you guys in a minute.